I remembered this morning to press the button that said to go live so that I don't do 53 minutes where I talk to myself. It might be a little bit loud because I haven't gone home. Last time I went home to do live, and this time I am sitting in Starbucks. But it was kind of impromptu. You know, when an idea just comes to you and you're like, okay, I want to talk about this. I need to talk about this. So I was thinking about, you know, at the moment I am finding that my nervous system is a little bit frayed as I work through some stuff. I'm doing some sort of healing and growth work at the moment, and it's quite intensive on the body. And I think this is something that we don't really talk about probably often enough, is the fact that when you're doing any kind of working through healing or growing or up leveling or whatever it is that you're doing, that these things are, even though they're mental and emotional activities, they are physically draining, especially if you're hitting triggers and maybe your body's uprising and feeling unsafe. So this is where I think it's really important to talk about the different considerations in terms of cycling exercise and using things like, so I wanted to talk about protein shakes because they're not something that I say to clients, "Oh, go and get them." I'm not a supplements pusher. There's certain areas where I think that supplements can be really important in supporting you through your journey, especially if you're learning how to introduce more sort of nutrient dense things into your diet. But I don't say, "Oh, go use them for whatever reason." But I wanted to talk about why I do. So, for example, this morning, when I've got a lot to do, when we're rushing out the house, especially now that we're sitting on about an hour to get to nursery and an hour on the way back, a lot of the time I'm just trying to conserve my energy and be like, right, okay, let's make life as easy as possible. So I have a protein shake first thing in the morning to make sure that I get something in, anything. Sometimes I don't feel that hungry in the morning either. It tends to be a little bit later on, but my workouts tend to be in the morning. So it makes more sense to have something on my stomach so that I've got something to work with as I go. Because my goal is not weight loss at all. And I'm a little bit on the sort of fasting thing. There's kind of there's different elements to it, but for the purpose of the kind of things that I'm talking about, I prefer to have something there, especially when the nervous system is feeling a little bit frayed. To be hungry on top of that does not help. So I'll have that in the morning. But I was thinking about it because I was thinking as I head towards the end of the stuff that I've got, so I switched from whey protein because my body does not like it at all. In fact, I've pretty much had to go dairy free because both dairy and gluten do irritate my gut. But why I may need to change it again even still is because the sweeteners that are used in most protein shakes also irritate the gut. So my next step now is to change to a protein that is unflavored and see how we get on with that. I'm a little bit like, because I don't know how it's going to be taste wise. I'm thinking I might put it with some decaf coffee, chilled, or see if I didn't blow the fuse and fry out my bullet per week and combine it with you know, like some coconut milk and some spinach and pineapple or something, or I might just have to go cold. But yeah, for me it's really handy in the times where when my nervous system is a little bit frayed and my appetite isn't as strong. It just makes sure I get something in. That being said, I don't have them all day every day because again, body does not like that. Can't speak for everybody's body, but my body definitely doesn't like that. But yeah, it just gives me a little bit of a helping hand along, essentially. the considerations that I was going to say. So when you're thinking about protein shakes, so of course I said about the sweeteners, not only do they tend to irritate the gut, but if weight loss is one of the considerations that you've got, it's good to know that sweeteners stimulate kind of the body in the same way that sugar does. So when your body is searching for the nutrients and expecting that it's going to be getting that energy hit from the sugar, but it doesn't then get it, it's going to search for more. I maybe not explain that in the best sort of way, but it's where one of those things is that when you're having something that sweet, your body still thinks it's getting sweet. So when it starts pushing out the insulin and stuff, but there's nothing there to soak it up, it's kind of causing more of a problem than it perceives to be solving. Another consideration is the fact that when you're eating, when you're chewing, you are actually stimulating a hormone that activates, gets your metabolism going. So if you pull chewing out of the mix, again, it's kind of shooting yourself in the foot a little bit. So that's a few little things on protein shakes and considerations there. I'll be able to go a little bit more detailed in the notes because I won't be shooting from the hip and visibly tired. But yeah, that was just something that was on my mind this morning. But I decided to do live and I went for 10 o'clock because originally around this time, normally what I do is I drop off Ruby at nursery and then I head to either go swimming or I head to go to the gym. And nerves wise, I really feel like I need that movement right now, but at the same time my body is quite tired and I don't feel like myself. So it's like, no, we're going to go rest first. I'll do this live and then I'm just going to tune into whatever I feel through the day. But this is where I don't give rigid plans. When I'm ever working with clients or even when I'm doing the work that I do for myself, the plan is never rigid because I don't know what energy I'm going to have on any given day. I don't know how well I'm going to have slept, all these different things. And if my body is feeling extra sensitive, ignoring my body and pushing myself through a workout could impact my immune system or I could get injured. And these are things that are just not worth it, or take what little energy that I need to keep my nervous system happy and as stable as possible when it's maybe a little bit out of sorts. I think where this gets challenging is that it's just not something, maybe very different, but it's just not something I remember really, really going into when it came to sort of like the textbook considerations. And I think because cPTSD and neurodivergence, they're both still quite new in awareness. They're not new, but in terms of people having awareness of them, I still feel like it hasn't quite filtered into the mainstream and the considerations in terms of fitness and nutrition. And even then, a lot of it comes from your own personal awareness, because that's why I'm so reluctant to, and I've taken my time in kind of sharing my inputs on it, my experience with it, is because it would be so easy for me to go and say, oh, do this when this happens, but the thing is, every person's experience, though there might be a collective resonance with some of the things that I say, everybody's personal experience is different, especially when we're considering neurodivergence. People's undersensitivities and oversensitivities are very, very different. And when you talk about being autistic and things like that, or even being ADHD, you're probably going to find that somebody's sensory stimming in autism is going to be someone else's overstimulation. And and no. So when it comes down to exercise, some people are going to really, really love it. Some people are maybe going to hate it and be overstimulated by it. I think it's maybe more of a case of finding what works and the volumes and the amounts. In some cases, this is going to be trial and error. A lot of the time, if you work with a professional that is, aware of things like cPTSD, autism, ADHD, the other types of neurodivergence, I don't really have a scope on because they're not my personal experience. I can't really give a deep understanding of it because it's not my experience, but there are a lot of clues in your lifestyle and things that work for you and don't work for you already. So with me, I have always had that balance between cardio exercise, strength exercise, and flexibility. And I need all of them for different reasons. So the strength, of course, it makes me feel stronger, but it makes the muscle groups, it keeps a balance in. So a lot of the times if I'm experiencing armoring, I need that strength exercise to counter that rounding in and lifting up that comes with that feeling under attack. And if that is a chronic experience, then the tightening can lead to sort of, a tightening of the muscles in the neck, the face, the head, the jaw, which kind of keeps that feeling of being under attack. How your body physically feels can influence, more of the experience of that anxiety or keep you in that kind of cycle of the armoring. So the strength is really important for me in that sense. But it also just feeling strong really helps me. I probably need to do a video entirely on the different types of exercise to go through the benefits, but those are kind of the ones that really stand out for me in why I do that. I used to do sessions that were up to an hour and a half long, particularly when I was doing bikini athlete competing. Whereas now, depending on the day and depending on what I'm doing, I'm looking at half an hour to an hour I'll maybe do. Some days I'll do longer, but it depends on the energy that I've got. And if you go to the nourishment video that I did, I'd explained a little bit of knowing when enough is enough. So it depends on what I'm feeling and what really needs working into to kind of strike the balance. A lot of the time I'm not doing things for fun per se. I'm even though I do find it fun, it's more I am trying to complete the pattern and get the balance back in. So if there's any imbalances creeping in, I'm looking to redress them so that I can feel physically safe in my body and regain that sense of balance and equilibrium again. Cardio. So cardio is like my original love. It's kind of where I started out in fitness. I started with running. I say started it when I consciously engaged in it as an adult, because I've been doing exercise in different forms since I was a child. I used to do a lot of walking, a lot of cycling, a lot of climbing trees, and I did ballet for like 11 years. But when I consciously went into it as an adult, I started in, just doing cardio machines in the gym, like probably everyone else does start out and doing running. And running was kind of my first love, and that runner's high was the time when I realized that I had an output for my cPTSD before I knew what cPTSD was. So I would come out of it not really knowing how to deal with the emotions, out of the grief of losing my dad and the fact that my mum had started drinking and I didn't really know what to do. Running gave me that outlet where I could go and run out in the middle of nowhere. I could do my Phoebe run and just shake it off. I could scream, I could cry, I could laugh, I could do whatever. And I would come out at the end of it feeling brand new. And I think that's kind of where, when people are wondering where some of us get that love of just the really pushing yourself through a workout, or, yeah, just some of them being brutal. That's where it came from, because that being able to really thrash out when I was struggling with my emotions and I didn't at the time know how to process them, that's what was so powerful. And that is actually what kind of made me decide I want to work in fitness, where at the time I was doing a degree in fashion design. So I spent more time in the gym and loving that than I did doing pattern cutting, which I just didn't really understand. I didn't have a natural flair for it. Yeah, so this one, you know, it bridged recently into swimming, which I love, but though I could sort of piddle paddle, I couldn't actually swim. So during lockdown, because I wanted to do surfing and sea swimming, I taught myself how to swim. And now I'm at the point where I can swim in the fast lane doing front crawls. So yay. And I think that's really cool. So if you're wanting to have like a love of fitness and you're wanting to go down the cardio route, it is really looking at the ways that you can take away the idea of it as a means to an end and look at the association that you have to it. So if you already see it as something that's a chore or that you dislike, it's going to be very hard to maintain that. So it's looking at ways that you can find something that you're going to enjoy and want to show up to. And if you are going to have a means to an end in terms of, well, even the cardio or the strength, really, it's looking for a performance-based goal rather than aesthetics one is going to be much more powerful, especially if you're trying to change the relationship that you have with your body, food, and exercise. It's shifting the variables about and playing about with it and making it your own. Now, obviously, if you have a trainer, if you have a coach, if you have a mentor, it's going to be a much easier process because it takes the guesswork out of it and you've got someone there to make sure that you are keeping on the right track. And by the right track, I don't mean reprimanding and being like meh, 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 meh. I'm more mean making sure keeping in between the parameters of it not becoming something that becomes an obsession or doing too much, or you know, maybe doing fluffy kind of routines that don't hold the same purpose that something with a little bit more structure, to prevent imbalances creeping in, that kind of thing. That can be really powerful. In terms of the flexibility, I had the love of flexibility from doing the ballet, even though for a long time I kind of begrudged going. You know, as a child, especially into a teen, you kind of go, oh, you know, tired after the day, especially not knowing that I was autistic and ADHD. But I love the flexibility aspect of it and the balance. These things can be really powerful in the sense, again, of creating that safety within the body and kind of undoing the armoring. My armoring tends to come mostly in my neck, my shoulders, and into my jaw, but also in and around my hips, which can then impact my knees. So yoga was a practice where I kind of had a desire to do it when I was a bit younger. I said, yeah, a bit younger. When I was like maybe 26 or something like that. I wanted to do it, but I never found a way or the time or the desire to fit it in enough when I wanted to keep getting stronger. And, you know, I was teaching up to 12 spin classes a week, plus my training, plus whatever classes I was doing, and physically demonstrating exercises and things for clients. You know, a lot of the time I would be pretty much doing deadlifts all day, every day, lighter, but you know, that was one of the key movements I did with clients, and was one of the ones that was really powerful for helping people to fall in love with fitness, because when they realize, oh shit, actually I'm really strong, that, you know, that kind of gives the knock-on effect of finding love in it. But when lockdown hit and I knew that I wanted to be able to exercise, but I wasn't really feeling wanting to do lots of HIIT or doing strength. I've got videos where I used to lift the sofa and stuff like that. So I started doing yoga with Adrian on YouTube, and that became my pretty much daily practice, just doing these snack yogas, like 20 minutes, 30 minutes. Most days through lockdown, and 3 years later, this is my practice, and I'm doing my yoga teacher training. Now, any kind of flexibility work is really powerful. I really love yoga because there is that connection with the breath and connection with the mind and the body, and slowing things down and creating that sense of safety. That's what I'll keep on saying. I say it all the time. As someone that has a lot of kickback off of the back of cPTSD, finding safety in my body and trusting myself has been such a huge, huge fundamental pillar within my own fitness and nutrition practice, and yoga definitely helps with that. So say, for example, today where I've said that, I'm coming onto this live just now and doing this because normally I would go and I've got all my workout stuff with me, but I'm feeling a little bit sparked out. I've hit a few triggers this week, and my body is feeling it. So I was like, no, I'm going to sit and I'll speak through some of the stuff this morning. And then if I feel it, I can maybe go and do a little bit of swimming or a little bit of stretching later on. Where was my tangent on that? Oh, yeah. Because for me, if I am feeling really anxious or really nervous or going through emotional flashback, I have a lot of buildup of energy, nervous energy in my body, especially with being autistic. I'm masking every single day when I'm out and about, but also in many ways when I'm at home, because having Ruby, when she's got her big emotions and things like that, I need to be able to hold space for those big emotions. And it means not reacting or panicking when things feel really overwhelming, and I feel that I just need to get home, or anything like that. And if I don't release that energy later on, again, it manifests in that anxiety, the armoring, not sleeping. So if I don't have the physical energy to go and exercise, my yogic practice, including the pranayama, means that I'm able to utilize different types of breathing styles to release that energy where I may not be able to go and do physical exercise that is intense. One of my systems is that impact exercise, so the running. So even though I love the swimming and the way that you have to breathe when you're swimming, that impact isn't there, so it doesn't always get the effect that I need. So a way I kind of manage to get that is by using a type of breath work called Kapalabhati, and that tends to be able to get rid of some of that energy in the same way that running would, but with that impact. But I'm normally working that in with the actual yoga that I'm doing. Now, I very rarely, even except from really in my training, and it may change over time, I very rarely do the sort of strength-based work in yoga. I do a lot more of the low to the ground, bedtime, chilling out kind of yoga, because that's what I need, because a lot of the intensity that's coming from my workouts is coming from the running, is coming from the swimming, is coming from the lifting. So I tend to do the more low to the ground yogas. And I think, again, this is what's really powerful about being able, especially with the internet now, being able to explore the different types of workouts, and not just saying it's not for me, but being open to the idea that there are so many different ways that you can approach it. Like when I started in the fitness industry back in 2008, it was a lot of the time when the classes were still, spin, body pump. Did they have body attack then? I think they did. Body attack, body combat, aqua aerobics, stability ball was one of the big classes that was still out there, and I haven't seen that in a long time. I taught it a few years ago in Sports Village, but you don't see it that much anymore. The different types of exercise and the accessibility that we have to it now is so great that we have a world of different things to explore. the only downside with that really is figuring out what is the right one, and what is going to work for you. And an element of that is understanding yourself, understanding your bodies, your desires, and your needs. But the other part is there is a science to it. And I think people have fallen out of love with it a little bit because we often think, I should be able to do this. I should know how to do it. It should be something. But there is science and method to all of the different applications. Oh, look, I've got my anxieties coming through doing the video. Yeah, so that's kind of my morning musing on it. But there's a lot of different sort of considerations again on that. The nourishment mini course that I did talked about that quite a lot, and I had the workbook. I'll pop the link for downloading it in the comments and things like that. But that was looking at your upper levels and your lower levels in terms of your energy, and working out what you need. I think sometimes the first thing is slowing down and taking stock and bringing to your awareness, what is it that I need, what is it that I want, instead of picking up any program because it gives a promise and going with it, and then finding that you don't like it, or there's too much in it, not enough in it, and then just being like, because that tends to be one of the biggest things, getting disheartened by attending or doing programs that aren't specifically designed for you, and then feeling like you're failing because you can't keep it up or make it work, when it's simply not designed for you, and you maybe you could even take it and tweak it so that it's that, taking the time to sort of understand that. But yeah. I've got to say, because your body will tell you everything you need. But I think what you may gather from what I've been saying as well is that for me personally, and I've been doing this for a very long time professionally, for 15 years, but I've been exercising technically since I was like ever. But we'll say four is when I started ballet and climbing trees and stuff like that. Even now, I'm in a position where I need to look objectively at what I'm experiencing in my body and try and figure out whether it is an actual physical fatigue that I'm experiencing, or an emotional and mental fatigue that is causing physical symptoms. And there's different ways that I would approach both. And sometimes it's trial and error, but from a very, very, very cautious approach. And that's me as a professional saying, it's not as simple as yes or no. Yes or no. Because sometimes when I'm exhausted or when I'm experiencing insomnia, what I do need to do is go for a run, because that's the impact, is what's going to bring me back into feeling safe. So lots of things to think about, maybe confuse you more than when I started, but that's basically what I'm here for, is not to say, this is what you do, go do this, don't do that. I'm here to kind of stimulate you to have an inquisitive mind when it comes to your body, your fitness, your exercise, any kind of fitness, your exercise, fitness, your nutrition, and any kind of well-being practice. How does it feel? Is it working for you? Is it not? Can you do something different? Do you need to rest? But for now, I'm going to sign off, and I'm going to drink my coffee, which I meant to get as decaf. I haven't, so it's got 3 shots of coffee in it. Not ideal when I'm feeling a bit, but it's fine. I'm going to be slow today. So have a good day, and I will see you again soon.